The frigid winds of Zeta 4 howled across the ice plains, pelting the exterior of the rust fortress, with crystallized needles that pinged against the hull like a million tiny drums. Colonel Logan Vance stared out through the viewport, his weathered face illuminated by the blue-white glow of the planet below. 300 years had passed since the fall of the Terran Empire, yet the memories still burned within him as if it were yesterday. "Anything worth our time down there?" asked Mercer, the ship's chief engineer, his voice rough from years of breathing recycled air and engine fumes. Logan shook his head, his eyes never leaving the icy expanse. "Just another frozen rock, but regulations say we check all anomalous signals." The Rust Fortress wasn't much, a salvage vessel cobbled together from the discarded remnants of a dozen different spacecraft. But it was home to Logan and his crew of outcasts, former military personnel, criminals, and those simply trying to survive in a galaxy that had all but forgotten humanity's once great empire. "Signal's getting stronger," called out Ayla Dre from the navigation console. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface with practiced precision. Once a pilot for the Terran Special Forces, Ayla now served as Logan's right hand and the ship's primary navigator. "Whatever's down there, it's big, and it's pulsing." Logan straightened his back, ignoring the familiar ache of old battle wounds. "Take us down. Standard salvage protocol." As the Rust Fortress descended through Zeta Phi's turbulent atmosphere, Logan couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't going to be just another routine scavenging mission. The Galactic Security Council and the Alien Alliance had spent centuries erasing humanity's footprint from the stars. Finding anything of value, especially anything of Terran origin, was increasingly rare. Yet something about this signal felt different, familiar somehow. The landing was rough, the ship buffeted by crosswinds that threatened to dash them against the jagged ice formations that dotted the landscape. Ayla's expertise at the controls was the only thing that kept them from becoming another frozen wreck. "Surface temperature is minus 87 degrees, reported Keller, the environmental specialist. "Suits will give us 3 hours, max." Logan nodded, already securing his thermal gear. "Let's make it count." The exploration team consisted of Logan, Ayla, and 2 security specialists named Jorvik and Tanner. As they trudged across the windswept ice field, their helmet lights cutting weak paths through the swirling snow, Logan kept his eyes on the signal tracker. Half a kilometer from their landing site, the device began to emit a rapid series of beeps. "We're close!" Logan shouted over the howling wind. "Spread out. Standard search pattern." They had barely begun their search when the ground beneath them shuddered. A low rumble, like distant thunder, rolled across the ice plain. "Seismic activity?" asked Jorvik, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. Before Logan could respond, a second tremor, stronger than the first, rippled through the ice. Cracks spread outward like lightning, and a massive fissure opened just meters from where they stood. "Back to the ship," Logan ordered, but it was too late. The ice beneath them gave way, and they plummeted into darkness. Logan awoke to the sound of emergency systems beeping. His suit had automatically sealed a small gash in his leg, and the biomonitors showed elevated heart rate, but no serious injuries. Around him, the others were beginning to stir. "Status report," he croaked, his throat dry. "Alive," grunted Ayla, already on her feet and scanning their surroundings with her helmet light. "But we're not alone down here." Logan followed her gaze and felt his breath catch. They had fallen into what appeared to be a massive cavern, but it wasn't natural. The walls were smooth, metallic, with patterns of frost forming intricate designs across their surface, and embedded in the far wall, partially visible through a thick sheet of ice, was a control panel. A Terran control panel. "Impossible," whispered Tanner. "No Terran vessel has been this far out in centuries." Logan approached the panel, his heart racing. With gloved hands, he brushed away the frost, revealing a familiar insignia, the eagle and stars of the Terran Navy. "Not just any vessel," Logan said, his voice barely audible. "This is military. High command." As if responding to his touch, the panel flickered to life, casting an eerie blue glow across the ice. Ancient systems, dormant for centuries, began to power up around them. The ice walls vibrated as machinery beneath them rumbled to life. "We need to get out of here," urged Jorvik, his voice tight with fear. But Logan couldn't move. He was transfixed by what the receding ice was revealing. Not just a control panel, but an entire command center. And on the largest screen, now flickering with static, a single word appeared. "Arbiter." "Sweet mercy," breathed Ayla, recognizing the name. "The TES Arbiter? The Dreadnought? That's impossible. It was destroyed during the Battle of Refraction Bridge." "Apparently not," Logan replied, his mind racing with the implications. The Arbiter had been the pride of the Terran fleet, a supercarrier capable of laying waste to entire star systems. Its disappearance had coincided with the final days of the Empire, just before the signing of the Refraction Bridge Treaty that had stripped humanity of its military power and relegated them to the fringes of galactic society. A hissing sound drew their attention to a previously hidden doorway that was slowly opening. Beyond it lay corridors stretching into darkness. "Sir," said Tanner nervously, "protocol says we should report this to the nearest galactic security outpost." Logan gave him a hard look. "And you think they'd let us walk away after that? This ship was deliberately hidden. If the Council learns of its existence, they'll obliterate it, and us along with it." "So what do we do?" asked Ayla. Logan's gaze returned to the illuminated insignia. "We wake it up." The decision made, they ventured deeper into the frozen vessel. As they moved through the corridors, more systems activated around them, as if the ship was gradually awakening from a long slumber. Emergency lighting flickered on, revealing the scale of the vessel. It was enormous, far larger than Logan had imagined. "The historical records don't do it justice," Ayla murmured, her eyes wide as they entered what appeared to be the main bridge. This thing could have taken on the entire Alien Alliance fleet. "And that's exactly why it was hidden," Logan replied, brushing frost from his central command console. "After Refraction Bridge, anything with this kind of firepower was supposed to be dismantled or surrendered." "Someone didn't get the memo," Jorvik remarked. Logan ran his hand over the captain's chair, feeling a connection to the past, to a time when humanity had stood tall among the stars. "They weren't surrendering," he said quietly. "They were preserving it, for a time when it might be needed again." A sudden alarm blared through the bridge, startling them. On the main view screen, external cameras activated, showing the ice plain above. A ship was descending, sleek, predatory, and unmistakably bearing the insignia of the Black Salvage Gang. "They must have detected the power surge," Ayla said, moving quickly to the tactical station. "Weapon systems?" "Offline," reported Tanner, frantically working the controls. "Life support at minimal levels. Engines cold." Logan's mind raced. The Black Salvage Gang was notorious for their brutality. If they discovered the Arbiter, they would strip it for parts and sell the location to the highest bidder. Likely the Galactic Security Council, who would ensure nothing remained. "We need time," Logan decided. "Jorvik, Tanner, get back to the surface. Delay them. Ayla and I will see if we can get more systems online." The two security specialists nodded grimly and headed for the exit, checking their weapons as they went. Once they were gone, Logan turned to Ayla. "I need you to find the engine room. See what we're working with." "And you?" Logan glanced at the central command console. "I'm going to have a talk with this ship." As Ayla departed, Logan settled into the captain's chair and began the process of interfacing with the ship's AI. It was risky. Terran military AIs were notoriously protective and often carried fail-safe protocols designed to prevent capture. But if he could convince it that he was a legitimate Terran officer... "Computer," he commanded. "Colonel Logan Vance, Terran Navy, authorization code Epsilon 97 Tango Whiskey." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the view screen flickered, and a holographic interface materialized before him, a stylized eagle with glowing blue eyes. "Authorization code recognized," came a synthetic voice, neither male nor female. "However, biometric confirmation required for full access. Warning, last recorded date is 45/25. Current date verification required." Logan hesitated. "Current date is year 4825 by the standard galactic calendar." The holographic eagle's eyes flashed red. "Temporal anomaly detected. 300 years have passed since last system activation. Requesting situation report." Before Logan could respond, the bridge filled with the sound of weapons fire from above. On the external cameras, he could see Jorvik and Tanner engaged in a firefight with the Black Salvage Gang, who had already established a perimeter around the fissure. "We're under attack," Logan said quickly. "Hostile forces attempting to seize this vessel." The AI's eyes narrowed. "Initiating defensive protocols. Warning, power reserves at 22%. Weapon systems offline. Hull integrity compromised in multiple sections. Can you seal the entry points? Buy us some time?" "Affirmative." Throughout the ship, massive bulkheads began to close, sealing off corridors and access points. On the screen, Logan watched as several Black Salvage members who had entered the fissure were trapped between closing doors, forced to retreat or be crushed. Ayla's voice came through his comm unit. "Logan, you need to see this. Engine room it's incredible. The power core is still intact. Fusion reactors in standby mode. Can you bring them online?" "I think so, but it'll take time. And it'll create one hell of a signature. Everyone in the system will know something's happening down here." Logan weighed the options. Once the Arbiter's engines activated, there would be no hiding what they'd found. The Galactic Security Council would respond immediately. "Do it," he ordered. "We're past the point of discretion." As Ayla worked to bring the engines online, Logan continued his dialogue with the AI, extracting information about the ship's history. The Arbiter, he learned, had been the flagship of the Terran Fifth Fleet, commanded by Admiral Helena Vance, his own ancestor. In the final days of the war, when defeat seemed inevitable, she had made the decision to hide the vessel rather than surrender it, hoping that future generations might reclaim it when the time was right. "She programmed me with specific protocols," the AI explained. "I was to remain dormant until awakened by a Vance." "A genetic failsafe," Logan realized. "That's why you accepted my authorization code." "Correct. Your DNA signature matches those in my database. You are a direct descendant of Admiral Vance." Logan felt a weight settle on his shoulders, the weight of legacy, of responsibility. What else did she leave? What are the Arbiter's capabilities? "The Arbiter is a Sovereign-class dreadnought, equipped with..." The AI was interrupted by a massive tremor that shook the entire ship. Alarms blared across the bridge. "External attack detected," the AI reported. "Black Salvage forces are attempting to breach the hull with explosive devices." "Ayla, we need those engines now," Logan shouted into his comm. "Working on it. 30 seconds." The tremors intensified. On the external cameras, Logan could see more ships descending, not just Black Salvage vessels, but a sleek, angular craft bearing the insignia of the Galactic Security Council. "They're here already," he muttered. "Engines online!" Ayla's triumphant voice came through the comm. "Logan, this thing has enough power to break orbit, but the ice..." "Will melt," Logan finished. "Computer, initiate engine startup sequence. Full power." "Warning," the AI cautioned. "Full power activation will result in catastrophic ice melt. Surrounding area will experience severe flooding and possible volcanic activity due to sudden pressure changes." "Do it anyway." The ship began to vibrate as the ancient engines roared to life. The ice surrounding the Arbiter began to crack and melt, sending cascades of water through the fissures. On the surface, the Black Salvage Gang and the newly arrived Galactic Security Forces found themselves retreating as the ground beneath them became unstable. Logan watched on the view screen as the massive form of the Arbiter began to rise, shedding its icy prison like a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. Chunks of ice the size of buildings crashed to the surface below, creating waves that swept away equipment and unfortunate scavengers who hadn't retreated quickly enough. Hull integrity at 67% and improving, reported the AI. Weapon systems initializing. Defensive shields online. Ayla returned to the bridge, her face flushed with excitement. Logan, you won't believe the firepower this thing has. The historical records weren't even close. Before Logan could respond, the communication system crackled to life. Unidentified vessel, came a stern voice. This is Captain Tellus of the Galactic Security Council vessel Sentinel. You are in violation of the Refraction Bridge Treaty. Power down immediately and prepare to be boarded. Logan exchanged a glance with Ayla. Should I respond? He asked quietly. She shook her head. They'll try to seize the ship no matter what you say. Agreed. Logan turned to the AI. Computer, can we break orbit? Affirmative. However, the Sentinel is positioning to intercept. Logan considered their options. They were outnumbered and outgunned. The Arbiter might be powerful, but it was still recovering from centuries of dormancy, and they had a skeleton crew at best. We need help, he decided. Computer, scan for any transmissions on Old Terran military frequencies. Scanning. There was a pause. One signal detected. Origin, Chiron Expanse. Identifying as Free Terran Remnant. Logan's eyebrows rose in surprise. The Free Terran Remnant was little more than a rumor, a supposedly organized resistance of former Terran military personnel who had refused to accept the terms of surrender. Most believed they had been wiped out decades ago. Open a channel, he ordered. After a moment of static, a gruff voice came through. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself. You're broadcasting on a restricted channel. This is Colonel Logan Vance aboard the Terran Dreadnought Arbiter. We've recovered the vessel from Zeta 4 and are currently facing hostiles from the Galactic Security Council. There was a long pause. Then, the Arbiter was destroyed 3 centuries ago. Apparently not. And right now, it's humanity's best hope for regaining a seat at the table. Another pause. Then, transmitting coordinates. Get there if you can. Remnant out. The communication ended abruptly. Coordinates received. The AI confirmed. Location is in the Chiron Expanse, approximately 12 light-years from our current position. Can we make it? Affirmative, but the Sentinel will pursue. Logan made his decision. Set course for the coordinates, maximum speed. As the Arbiter rose higher into Zeta 4's atmosphere, the Sentinel moved to intercept, launching fighters that swarmed around the massive dreadnought like angry insects. They're targeting our engines, Ayla reported from the tactical station. Evasive maneuvers, Logan ordered the AI, and give me weapons control. Warning, the AI cautioned. Weapons activation will trigger Purge Directive protocols. Logan froze. What is the Purge Directive? The Purge Directive is a fail-safe protocol designed to eliminate all non-Terran forces within weapon range. Once activated, it cannot be countermanded until all targets are neutralized. Ayla looked at Logan in horror. That would mean firing on everything, not just the Sentinel, but any civilian vessels in the area. Logan's mind raced. The Purge Directive must have been a last resort protocol implemented during the final desperate days of the war. Using it now would confirm every fear the Galactic Security Council had about humanity regaining its military strength. Computer, override Purge Directive. Authorization, Vance Alpha 77 Echo. Unable to comply, Purge Directive can only be overridden by unanimous agreement of senior command staff. Logan cursed under his breath. Then we'll have to outrun them. Divert all power to engines and shields. The Arbiter surged forward, its massive form accelerating with surprising speed for a vessel its size. The Sentinel pursued, its weapons finding little purchase against the Dreadnought's ancient but formidable shields. As they cleared Zeta-4's atmosphere, the true scale of their situation became apparent. The Sentinel was just one vessel behind it. A flotilla of Galactic Security Council ships was assembling, moving to cut off their escape route. "We're not going to outrun them," Ayla said grimly. Logan stared at the tactical display, his mind working furiously. Then he noticed something: a dense asteroid field at the edge of the system, filled with ice and mineral-rich rocks. "Computer, alter course, head for the asteroid field." "That is inadvisable," the AI responded. "Navigation through dense asteroid fields presents significant risk to hull integrity." "Do it anyway, and prepare for a tactical jump once we're inside." The Arbiter changed course, heading directly for the asteroid field. The pursuing vessels hesitated, clearly wary of following such a massive ship into the dangerous terrain. "They're holding position at the edge of the field," Ayla reported. "But they're deploying smaller craft, scout ships and fighters." "Good," Logan said. "They'll be scattered, disorganized. Computer, how soon can we jump?" Faster-than-light systems require 3 minutes to fully charge after 3 centuries of dormancy. "We need to buy that time." "Ayla, take manual control of the point defense systems. Target any pursuing craft, but try to disable, not destroy." Ayla nodded, her fingers flying across the tactical console. The Arbiter's defensive weapons, energy turrets and missile pods came to life, picking off the pursuing fighters with surgical precision. "1 minute to jump capability," the AI announced as they weaved through the asteroid field. Massive rocks scraping against their shields. The comm system crackled again. "Arbiter, this is Admiral Merrill of the Galactic Security Council flagship Vigilance. You are in possession of a prohibited weapon of mass destruction. Power down immediately, or face total annihilation." Logan ignored the transmission. 30 seconds, he muttered. Suddenly, the ship rocked violently. "Direct hit to the port engines," Ayla called out. "Shields down to 40%. "Reroute power from non-essential systems," Logan ordered. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jump systems engaged. The Arbiter seemed to stretch, the stars around them blurring into streaks of light. Then, with a flash that momentarily blinded their pursuers, the massive dreadnought vanished into faster-than-light travel. Logan exhaled slowly, allowing himself a moment of relief. But he knew it was temporary. The Galactic Security Council wouldn't give up easily, not when a vessel like the Arbiter was at stake. "Set a direct course for the coordinates," he told the AI. "Maximum speed. Estimated arrival time, 6 hours, 42 minutes. Logan nodded and turned to Ayla. "Get some rest. I'll take the first watch." As Ayla left the bridge, Logan settled back into the captain's chair, his mind racing with possibilities and dangers. The Arbiter was more than just a ship. It was a symbol, a remnant of humanity's former glory. And now it was in his hands. "Computer," he said after a long silence, "tell me everything about the final days of the war. Why was the Arbiter hidden instead of used in the last stand?" The AI's holographic eagle appeared before him. The decision was made by Admiral Helena Vance after the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The Terran fleet had been decimated, and victory was deemed impossible. Rather than allow the Arbiter to be destroyed or surrendered, Admiral Vance chose a third option: preservation. For what purpose? Her final log entry states, "Not for revenge, but for renaissance." When humanity is ready to reclaim its place among the stars, the Arbiter will be their shield. Logan contemplated these words, feeling the weight of his ancestors' trust. She had preserved the Arbiter, not as a weapon of vengeance, but as a guardian for humanity's future. And what about the Purge Directive? That doesn't sound like protection. It sounds like annihilation. The AI hesitated, its holographic form flickering slightly. The Purge Directive was implemented in the final days, when desperation clouded judgment. It was never Admiral Vance's intention for it to be the Arbiter's primary protocol. Can it be permanently disabled? Only with the genetic authentication of a full command staff, 5 officers of captain rank or higher, all with Terran genetic markers. Logan frowned. Finding 5 pure-blooded Terran officers would be nearly impossible in this era of diaspora and integration. The journey to the Chiron expanse was tense, but uneventful. The Arbiter's ancient engines performed admirably, pushing the massive vessel through space at speeds that would have impressed even modern engineers. As they approached the coordinates, Logan returned to the bridge, joined by Ayla and their 2 security specialists. "Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1, announced the AI. The starscape returned to normal as the Arbiter decelerated. Before them lay a sprawling asteroid field, seemingly unremarkable. "Are you sure these are the right coordinates?" Logan asked. "Confirmed," the AI responded, detecting multiple low-power transmissions from within the field. Suddenly, their communication system activated. "Arbiter, this is Commodore Kieran Harth of the Free Terran Remnant. Hold position and prepare to be boarded." Logan hesitated. "Boarded?" "Standard security protocol," came the reply. "We need to verify your identity and intentions before we reveal our location." "Understood. We'll await your boarding party." A small craft emerged from the asteroid field, approaching cautiously. The AI confirmed it was an old Terran shuttle, modified extensively, but still recognizable. "Docking in progress," the AI announced as the shuttle attached itself to one of the Arbiter's many airlocks. Logan, Ayla, and their security team met the boarding party at the airlock. The door slid open to reveal 5 individuals in mismatched armor, bearing faded Terran insignias. Their leader, a tall man with graying hair and a scarred face, stepped forward. "Colonel Vance," he asked, his voice matching the one from their earlier communication. Logan nodded. "Commodore Harth, I presume." The man's stern expression broke into a slight smile. "Never thought I'd see the day when the Arbiter returned to us. The stories were true after all." "You knew about this ship?" "Rumors. Legends. The last great hope of the Empire, hidden away for a future generation." Harth glanced around at the corridor. "My grandfather served under Admiral Helena Vance. He always believed the Arbiter wasn't destroyed, that she had a plan." Logan felt a connection to this man, a shared heritage of service and sacrifice. She did, and now we need to figure out what to do with her legacy. Harth nodded grimly. "The Galactic Security Council will have deployed their entire fleet by now, and once word reaches the Alien Alliance, they'll join the hunt too. Nobody wants to see humanity armed with a weapon like this." "It doesn't have to be a weapon," Logan argued. "It could be a deterrent, a way for humanity to finally negotiate from a position of strength." Harth studied him for a moment. "You sound like an idealist, Colonel. Those are rare these days." He gestured to the airlock. "Come with me. There's something you need to see." Logan looked to Ayla, who nodded subtly. They followed Harth and his team back onto the shuttle, which detached from the Arbiter and headed deeper into the asteroid field. As they navigated through the floating rocks, Logan was startled to see signs of habitation, structures built into the asteroids, connecting tubes between them, even small vessels moving about. "Welcome to New Thessia," Harth said, noting Logan's surprise. "One of the last free Terran colonies. We've managed to stay off the Council's radar for nearly 50 years. The shuttle docked with a larger structure, and they disembarked into a bustling command center. Dozens of people moved about, monitoring communications and sensor readings. All of them wore some variation of the old Terran military uniform, though many were patched and modified. "How many of you are there?" Logan asked in amazement. "Here? About 2,000. Throughout the galaxy?" Harth shrugged. "Maybe 50,000 who still identify as Free Terran. Most have integrated into colonial society or hidden their heritage to avoid persecution. Persecution? Harth's expression darkened. The Refraction Bridge Treaty didn't just disarm humanity. It demonized us, made us the villains of galactic history. Those who still proudly claim Terran heritage face discrimination, limited rights, restricted movement. Logan felt a surge of anger. The history he'd been taught had painted the treaty as a necessary peace agreement after a costly war. The reality, it seemed, was much harsher. And now, Harth continued, leading them to a central holographic display. We have the Council's full attention. He activated the display, showing dozens of galactic security vessels converging on their last known location. They've deployed 7 battle groups. That's more firepower than they used to suppress the Rigelian uprising. They're afraid, Ayla observed. As they should be, said a new voice. Logan turned to see a woman approaching, tall, with short silver hair, and the bearing of a lifelong soldier. She wore a captain's insignia on her weathered uniform. Colonel Vance, this is Captain Saren Voss, Harth introduced her. My second-in-command and chief tactical officer. Voss regarded Logan with open skepticism. So you're the one who woke the beast? Do you have any idea what you've done? Opened a door that was meant to stay closed, Logan suggested. Started a war, Voss corrected harshly. The Council will never allow the Arbiter to remain in Terran hands, and some of us think that's exactly what we need. A final confrontation. Logan noticed the tension between Harth and Voss. Clearly, there were divisions within the Free Terran remnant about how to proceed. What's your plan, Commodore? Logan asked Harth directly. Harth hesitated, glancing at Voss before responding. We need to demonstrate that the Arbiter is fully operational and under our control. Make the Council understand that any attempt to seize or destroy it would result in mutually assured destruction. Deterrence. Logan nodded. But there's a problem. The ship has something called the Purge Directive, an automatic weapons protocol that would target any non-Terran vessels within range. If it activates during a confrontation, then we eliminate our enemies in one stroke, Voss interrupted, her eyes gleaming. Exactly as it was designed to do. That would make us the monsters they already think we are, Logan argued. And it would unite the entire galaxy against us. We wouldn't survive the retaliation. Harth nodded slowly. He's right, Saren. We need control of the Arbiter, not just its firepower. He turned back to Logan. Can this Purge Directive be disabled? Only with the genetic authentication of 5 Terran officers of captain rank or higher. Harth and Voss exchanged looks. We have 3 here, including myself, Harth said. You would be the 4th. And the 5th? Asked Ayla. There's a Terran colony governor on Helios Prime who served in the Navy before the dissolution. If we can reach him. A warning klaxon interrupted their discussion. A young officer rushed to Harth's side. Sir, we have multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system. Galactic Security Council signatures. They found us faster than expected, Harth muttered. Evacuate the civilians, battle stations for everyone else. As the command center erupted into activity, Logan grabbed Harth's arm. You can't fight them here. These people will be slaughtered. We have defenses. Nothing that can stand against a full battle group. We need to draw them away. Harth hesitated, then nodded. The Arbiter. If we can get it moving, they'll follow it and leave the colony alone. Exactly. And I have an idea of where to go. Within minutes, they were back aboard the shuttle, racing toward the Arbiter. Behind them, the first defensive volleys were already being exchanged between the hidden colony's gun platforms and the approaching Council vessels. What's your plan? Harth asked, as they docked with the dreadnought. Helios Prime, Logan answered. We get the 5th officer, disable the Purge Directive, and make our stand where the Council can't ignore us, but also can't risk open warfare. The aerostation? Harth realized. The diplomatic hub. Precisely. They can't fire on us there without endangering representatives from 100 worlds. As they boarded the Arbiter, Logan wasted no time. Computer, plot a course to Helios Prime, maximum speed. Warning, the AI responded. Multiple hostile vessels approaching. Weapons targeting locks detected. Evasive maneuvers get us out of here. The Arbiter's engines roared to life, propelling the massive vessel away from the asteroid field. On the tactical display, Logan could see the Council vessels changing course to pursue, just as he'd hoped. They're taking the bait, Ayla observed from her station. The colony should be safe. For now, Harth agreed. But we've painted an even bigger target on ourselves. The journey to Helios Prime was a race against time. The Council vessels pursued relentlessly, occasionally getting close enough to exchange fire with the Arbiter's defensive systems. Each engagement risked activating the Purge Directive, forcing Logan to order minimal response to attacks. This is unsustainable, Voss complained, after a particularly close call left one of their secondary power relays damaged. We should turn and fight. And trigger the Purge Directive? Become the monsters they claim we are? Logan shook his head. We're better than that. Are we? Voss challenged. The Council has spent centuries painting us as bloodthirsty warmongers. Maybe it's time we lived up to the reputation. That's enough, Captain. Harth intervened. Colonel Vance is right. Our goal is survival and recognition, not vengeance. As they approached Helios Prime, a new complication arose. The AI detected a transmission from the planet to the pursuing Council vessels. They're warning the governor, Ayla reported. Council forces are already on the ground, moving to secure him. Logan cursed under his breath. We need a new plan. Perhaps not, Harth said thoughtfully. The governor isn't the only former naval officer in the sector. There's someone else, someone the Council wouldn't know about. Who? My wife, Captain Alara Harth, formerly of the Terran 7th Fleet. She's been living under an assumed identity on Ceres Station. Logan considered this. Ceres Station is a commercial hub, minimal Council presence. And it's on the way to Aero Station, Harth added. We could make the stop, get Alara, and continue to our final destination. Change of plans, Logan announced. Computer, set course for Ceres Station. The Arbiter altered course, accelerating away from Helios Prime and toward the bustling commercial station that served as a trade hub for the sector. The pursuing Council vessels, momentarily confused by the change in direction, fell behind. They're splitting up, Ayla reported. Some continuing to Helios Prime, others following us. Good, Logan said. That reduces the immediate threat. As they approached Ceres Station, Logan, Harth, and Ayla formulated a plan. The Arbiter would remain at a safe distance, while a small team took a shuttle to the station to retrieve Captain Alara Harth. I should go alone, Harth insisted. Less chance of drawing attention. Too risky, Logan countered. If you're recognized, you'll need backup. Ayla and I will accompany you. The mission to Ceres Station was tense, but successful. Alara Harth, a dignified woman with the same determined bearing as her husband, did not hesitate when presented with the situation. Within hours, they were returning to the Arbiter with the 5th officer they needed. As they approached the dreadnought, however, disaster struck. A Council patrol vessel that had been hiding in Ceres Station's shadow emerged, weapons blazing. Their shuttle took a direct hit to its propulsion system. We're losing control, Ayla reported, fighting with the shuttle's controls. Emergency thrusters only. Can we reach the Arbiter? Logan asked. Yes, but it won't be pretty. The damaged shuttle limped toward the dreadnought, pursued by the patrol vessel. As they neared, the Arbiter's point defense systems activated automatically, driving off the attacker with a barrage of energy fire. Docking successful, the AI announced, as the shuttle crashed into one of the Arbiter's landing bays. Warning: multiple hostile vessels detected on intercept course. Logan and the others staggered from the damaged shuttle, bruised but alive. Computer, Get us out of here. Maximum speed to Aero Station. The Arbiter accelerated away from Ceres Station, its ancient engines straining against the demands placed upon them. Behind them, a growing armada of Council vessels gave chase, joined now by ships bearing the insignia of the Alien Alliance. They've called in reinforcements, Voss observed grimly. The Alliance wouldn't miss a chance to help destroy their old enemy. With all 5 officers now aboard, they gathered on the bridge to attempt the deactivation of the Purge Directive. Each took their position at a different console, ready to input their genetic authentication. On my mark, Logan instructed. 3, 2, 1, mark. Each officer placed their hand on a scanner, allowing the ship's systems to analyze their DNA. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, the AI's voice echoed through the bridge. Genetic authentication complete. 5 Terran command officers verified. Purge directive status. Ready for modification. Logan exhaled in relief. Computer, disable Purge directive. Replace with defensive protocol only. Modification in progress. The AI responded. Warning. This change will reduce combat effectiveness by approximately 63%. A price worth paying for our humanity, Logan said firmly. As the Arbiter raced toward Aero Station, the pursuing fleet grew larger. Council and Alliance vessels coordinated their efforts, attempting to box in the Dreadnought and force it to either fight or surrender. They're trying to provoke us, Harth observed. They want the Purge Directive to activate before we can disable it. Well, they're too late, Logan replied, as the AI announced the completion of the protocol modification. Computer, status of defensive protocol? Defensive protocol active. Weapon systems will now only target vessels that directly attack this ship. A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge. The risk of the Arbiter becoming an instrument of mass destruction had been averted. Now, they needed to reach Aero Station and force a diplomatic resolution. As they approached the massive space station that served as the galaxy's primary diplomatic hub, a new transmission came through, not from their pursuers, but from the station itself. Unidentified vessel. This is Aero Station Control. You are on an unauthorized approach vector. Be advised that military vessels are prohibited in this sector without prior diplomatic clearance. Logan opened a channel. Aeros Control. This is Colonel Logan Vance aboard the Terran vessel Arbiter. We request sanctuary under Article 7 of the Galactic Charter, the right of persecuted peoples to seek diplomatic intervention. There was a long pause before the response came. Arbiter, hold position at 1,000 kilometers from the station while your request is processed. They're stalling, Voss said bitterly, giving the Council time to catch up. Perhaps, Logan agreed. But they also can't deny our request outright without violating their own charter. Computer, hold position as instructed. The Arbiter came to a stop at the designated distance from Aero Station. Behind them, the pursuing fleet began to decelerate, forming a blockade that cut off any potential escape route. Now what? Asked Ayla. Now, Logan said, settling into the captain's chair. We make our case to the galaxy. Using the Arbiter's powerful communications array, Logan broadcast a message on all frequencies, ensuring it would be received not just by Aero Station and their pursuers, but by worlds throughout the sector. This is Colonel Logan Vance of the Free Terran Remnant. 3 centuries ago, humanity was defeated in war and subjected to the terms of the Refraction Bridge Treaty, terms that went far beyond disarmament to systematic persecution and erasure of our culture, our history, and our rights as sentient beings. The vessel I command, the Arbiter, was preserved not as a weapon of war, but as a reminder of what humanity once was, and could be again. We do not seek conflict. We do not seek revenge. We seek only recognition of our right to exist as equals in this galaxy. To demonstrate our commitment to peace, we have voluntarily disabled the ship's offensive capabilities. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves if attacked. We call upon the Galactic Security Council and the Alien Alliance to meet with us in good faith at Aero Station to negotiate a new understanding between our peoples. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Transmissions flooded in from across the galaxy, some supportive, many hostile, all intensely interested in the sudden reappearance of a legendary Terran dreadnought. From the pursuing fleet, Admiral Merrill of the Council flagship Vigilance issued an ultimatum: surrender the Arbiter immediately or face destruction. This is your final warning. From Aero Station came a more measured response. Colonel Vance, your request for diplomatic intervention has been granted. A delegation may board Aero Station for preliminary discussions. And from a dozen Terran colonies across the sector came messages of support and defiance, many openly declaring their independence from Council oversight for the first time in centuries. It's working, Harth said in amazement. You've sparked something that's been smoldering for generations. Logan nodded grimly. But now comes the hard part. We need to turn this moment into lasting change, not just a heroic last stand. The diplomatic mission to Aero Station was tense but productive. Logan, Harth, and Alara represented the Free Terran Remnant, facing a panel of Council officials and Alliance representatives who regarded them with a mixture of fear, contempt, and reluctant respect. The Arbiter represents an existential threat to galactic peace, insisted Councillor Xandar of the Alliance. Its very existence violates the Refraction Bridge Treaty. A treaty forced upon a defeated people, Logan countered. A treaty that went beyond reasonable security concerns to become an instrument of oppression. Would any of your worlds accept such terms? The discussions continued for days. While outside, both sides maintained their military positions, the Arbiter holding steady near the station, the combined Council and Alliance fleet keeping their distance, but ready to strike. On the third day of negotiations, a new factor entered the equation. Across the sector, Terran colonies began openly declaring their independence, raising the old Terran flag alongside new symbols of their own creation. Some had small defense forces, others were completely vulnerable, but all were united in a single message: humanity would no longer accept second-class status in the galaxy. The Council and Alliance representatives were furious, accusing Logan and the others of orchestrating a coordinated rebellion. But the truth was simpler. They had merely provided the spark for a fire that had been building for centuries. This changes nothing, Admiral Morell declared during an especially heated session. If anything, it proves our point about the danger of Terran resurgence. It changes everything, Logan replied calmly. You now face not one ship, but an entire people awakening to their right to self-determination. You can destroy the Arbiter, perhaps, but you cannot destroy the idea it represents without becoming the very monsters you claim we are. As the negotiations reached a critical point, tragedy struck. A radical faction within the Alliance, unwilling to wait for a diplomatic solution, launched a surprise attack on one of the newly independent Terran colonies, New Meridian, a peaceful agricultural world with minimal defenses. Word of the attack reached Aero Station during a negotiation session, causing uproar. Logan and Harth demanded immediate Council intervention to stop the massacre. This is exactly why the Arbiter was preserved, Logan argued passionately. To protect our people from exactly this kind of aggression? To everyone's surprise, it was Admiral Merrill who took action. The Alliance forces attacking New Meridian are not operating under Council authority, she announced. I am dispatching vessels to intervene. It was a pivotal moment, the first time in centuries that Council forces had moved to protect Terran civilians rather than suppress them. But it might be too late for New Meridian. The Arbiter could reach them faster, Logan pointed out. Allow us to help. After a tense debate, permission was granted. The Arbiter, accompanied by a small Council escort, to ensure compliance with the terms of their agreement, set course for New Meridian at maximum speed. They arrived to find the colony under heavy bombardment from Alliance vessels. Without hesitation, The Arbiter moved to interpose itself between the attackers and the planet. "This is Colonel Logan Vance of the Terran vessel Arbiter," Logan broadcast. "Cease your attack immediately, or face defensive response." The Alliance vessels, startled by the appearance of the legendary dreadnought, hesitated. That hesitation was their undoing. The Arbiter's defensive systems, now operating under the new protocol, targeted only those ships actively firing on the colony. With surgical precision, the ancient weapons disabled the attackers without destroying them. The Council escort, witnessing this display of restraint, reported back to Aero Station. The Terrans had kept their word, using the Arbiter's fearsome capabilities only to defend, not to destroy. When Logan and the Arbiter returned to Aero Station, the atmosphere of the negotiations had changed. The Alliance representatives, embarrassed by the actions of their radicals, were more subdued. The Council representatives, impressed by the Terrans' restraint, were more willing to listen. "Perhaps," suggested Councillor Trell of the moderate faction, "it is time to revisit the terms of the Refraction Bridge Treaty. 300 years is a long time to hold an entire species accountable for the actions of a fallen empire." The negotiations that followed were long and complex, but ultimately successful. A new treaty, the Eros Accord, was drafted, recognizing the right of Terran colonies to self-governance and allowing limited defensive capabilities, while maintaining prohibitions against weapons of mass destruction. The Arbiter itself presented a unique challenge. Too powerful to be allowed free movement throughout the galaxy, yet too symbolic to be destroyed. A compromise was reached. The ancient dreadnought would be permanently stationed at New Thessia, serving as both headquarters for the newly recognized Terran Defense Force and as a memorial to a complex history. As the formal signing ceremony concluded, Admiral Morell approached Logan privately. "You know this isn't the end," she said quietly. "There are those in both the Council and the Alliance who will never accept Terrans as equals." "I know," Logan replied. "Just as there are Terrans who will never forgive the centuries of oppression. But today, we've created the possibility of a different future. That's enough for now." Aboard the Arbiter, now peacefully orbiting New Thessia, Logan stood on the observation deck with Ayla, Hearth, and the others who had shared in their incredible journey. Below them, the once hidden colony was transforming into a thriving center of Terran culture and governance. "What now, Colonel?" asked Ayla, gazing out at the stars. Logan considered the question. "Now we rebuild, not an empire, but a society worthy of the second chance we've been given." "And the Arbiter?" Hearth inquired. "Remains what it was always meant to be. A shield, not a sword. A reminder of our past, and a guardian of our future." As if in response, the ship's AI activated its holographic interface. "Protocol update complete," it announced. "Primary directive now set to defensive only. Secondary directive, preserve Terran sovereignty. Is this acceptable, Colonel Vance?" Logan nodded, feeling the weight of history and possibility on his shoulders. "It is. And so our renaissance begins." Beyond the viewport, distant lights marked the positions of newly liberated Terran worlds, each one signaling the same message across the vastness of space. "We are free."